Welcome everyone to the November 17th Policy Committee meeting. I will start the meeting off with a roll call, and this will be short and sweet. Jennifer Lohman.
Present.
And I am present, Dan Schultz. Julie Haywood indicated she will be here, but has to dial in by phone, so she may be a few moments late, but when she joins, we'll recognize her. The first item is a request for approval of minutes of last month's meeting.
So moved.
I will second. However, I believe there was a public comment which are not reflected in the meetings, in the minutes. And I think we're in the habit of noting the nature of comment and the person who asked in our minutes.
You are required to do so.
We are great. Not even the habit. So I believe that was Eliza or Lisa.
I believe it was Elisa.
Elisa, yeah. So Elisa Davis, and she was asking about. It was not on an agenda topic. It was more around our processes around deciding how to spend funds for social supports. That was one item. I believe there was another item related to that. So if it's possible for us to update the minutes for that, that would be good.
Yeah, I can add that into the minutes.
Okay.
Would you want to defer the minutes to next month and then just approve
That's
it?
what I was going to ask Mr. Roos, because should we do that?
You can do that.
Okay.
There's also, not to digress here, there is maybe also some merit. I've been recommending, based upon the recent amendments to the Sunshine Act, that committee minutes be approved by the full board instead of at a public meeting rather than by the committees. That way, committees aren't accused of taking official action and thereby obligating itself to maybe some additional requirements under the Sunshine Act that they don't necessarily need to be.
Okay.
So I'm going to suggest, and I can bring back to you a policy next month that basically says that you just revises your committee policy to say no official action taken, and we can just simply change the practice of approving committee minutes at just put them all for the board meeting.
Right. Well, that sounds from this committee's perspective, as one member, that sounds excellent. And I can say for all my yes, that sounds good to me.
Okay.
So why don't we defer? So Jenny, all in favor of these minutes?
You don't need to.
All right. Okay, great. So nay. I just wanted to vote down minutes for the first time ever, Ken. So sounds good.
I wasn't sure where you were going with that. That made me nervous. Okay.
Yes.
I just want to make sure we're deferring the minutes.
We are.
And
yes.
I will add Alicia Davidson's comment. And do I also add the answer to her question?
No, you don't need to. No, you just simply state the name of the resident and the subject matter of their comments. That's all you need to say.
Okay.
And I'll add, which I brought up in other and we may look into this in policy in future. But if we have a video of the meeting, which I believe we do, if we could include a link to whether it's directly to the video or to the online description of basically we should somehow from the minutes link to the existence of a video if a video exists is my request. So
add a link in the minutes.
Yeah. That way, if somebody finds the minutes and they want to actually see the discussion, they can. And that's in lieu of typing out there's no need to type out the discussion if it's been recorded, especially. So, but it can't hurt. All right, I see a phone call in listener, which I assume
it may be Ms. Haywood.
And it would be rare for it not to be. So maybe we could elevate her.
Dan, that is Miss Haywood.
Okay, great.
And
How, do you know how, can we?
I can allow her to talk, but I
That's-
cannot move her to a panelist.
That's fine. I think allowing her to talk is
Okay.
all right. Ms. Haywood, I think you're here. You are muted, and I think you might have to hit *9 to unmute. Great.
Hi, Dan. I am unmuted. I was muted for a little while, so
All right. Well,
you
welcome.
may
We
not have
just
seen the call. Thank you.
to catch you up, we have not gotten far. We got bogged down in the minutes. We're planning on deferring the minutes to next month, but then also potentially changing our practice to not approve minutes in committee for Sunshine Act reasons, and have the full board approve committee minutes going forward. So
Yeah, I did hear that. I'm fine with that. That makes a lot of sense.
great. All right. The next agenda item is our old business, and we begin with policy and AR 337 electronic devices, which is being changed to personal electronic devices. Is there any board
Okay.
comment or administrative comment? This is, I believe for most of these policies, they're the same. There wasn't much fundamental change between last month and this month. Is that correct?
There was no change.
No, yeah, thank you. So I see no comments, and I see no members of the public. So I think we can move to the next policy 437 and 537, which are the same policy for repeal, due to being consolidated.
Correct.
All right. Any board comments or public comment? Seeing none. The next item is policies. I'm sorry. Policies 330, 430, oops, and 530 electronic communications for repeal.
All of them have been consolidated into 337.
Great. Any board comment?
No, I think it's policy 860 that they're consolidated into.
Mhm.
Let me see. You are correct. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, you are correct.
All right. Thank you for that clarification. Seeing no comment, we'll move to policy and AR 304 employee resignations. Any board comment?
No
Seeing-
changes since last month.
Great. So that would move forward. Policies 404 and 504 employee resident. I'm sorry, I should have combined these two items, but any comment on the repeal of the corresponding consolidation policies? I'm going to assume none. Mr. Roos, can I just ask or can I just blanket? I'll just keep going. Policy in AR 350 reporting arrests and conditions, which is changed to educator misconduct. Is there any board comment on this?
Yeah, and this one you can combine with the conversation about 358.
Okay,
These are all just
understood. For the repeals, for the 450, 550, yes. Any board comment on the repeals or the new consolidated policy? Seeing none, we'll move to that would move forward, and policies in AR 358, 458, and 558 required clearances, which is proposed for repeal since its contents incorporated elsewhere. No comments I'm seeing. That would move forward. Policy and AR 361 crowdfunding.
just cleanup
Which is cleanup, yep.
and consolidation.
I will break the pattern with a question. Does this policy have to do with fundraisers, not crowdfunding, but fundraisers in school fundraisers?
No,
Then
those are school sponsored, school endorsed. This is just to make sure we're governing and regulating, employees who on their own want to conduct some sort of crowdfunding campaign on behalf of the district. This is not known to be an issue in Cheltenham, or never known, but it's actually more common than you think. School districts that they had no idea that people were crowdfunding on behalf, or crowdfunding for like school supplies, like I'm not talking about Cheltenham, other places. So that's why this policy was originally adopted. I'm not aware that it's ever been an issue in Cheltenham. but you need a policy to say so.
Great. All right, any board comment? And any members of the public who would like to comment on any of these policies, please raise your hand at any point and you will be recognized. All right, policy, and then likewise the repeal policies. So no comment on that. We can move to new business. The first item of new business, and all of those would move forward to the equivalent of second read, whether it's for repeal to adoption or repeal,
Adoption.
depending on nature.
Correct.
So for new business, policy 815 incident reports, which is being proposed for repeal. Could we provide the context for
This
the
would-
repeal?
Yes, this is just deemed to be kind of an unnecessary policy, hasn't been looked at since May 12th, and there's no need to have a policy on this. You have these procedures embedded elsewhere.
Okay. Any board comment on this proposed repeal?
Just one, I'm sorry, I can't raise my
Yes,
hand. on the
yeah,
phone,
no
but,
problem, Ms. Haywood.
Yes, Mr. Ruth, just a quick question. Would the process that was outlined in the incident report policy, would that be embedded in like the complaint and appeals policy?
No, I believe it's more in the accidents and injuries policy. If you're talking about incidents involving athletics, if you're talking about incidents involving police matters, they've all been incorporated into the policy about reporting things with where the MOU is with the police. So that's where they're all embedded. I think this is just a relic of something that the PSBA used to recommend, 25 years ago, which isn't really necessary anymore.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Roos, and I think you've answered it, but just more broadly, the idea of establishing communication protocols, what the board does and does not expect to be updated on in terms of incidents and reports, is that better done not through policy, but through simply, conversation and mutual understanding? Is there?
You should embed in policy, number one, what you want, number two, what you'll actually do. I know the notification about reporting to board members, this has been in policy since 1997. I'm not aware that it's ever actually happened. So if you're not following a policy for 25 years, that probably means the policy either isn't necessary or should be changed. And in this case, we're suggesting you just don't have it, and then decide what you do want to have, and then establish that through some other policy about, superintendent responsibilities or whatever other expectations you have for the superintendent to report things to you. But this, to my knowledge, this is never actually, these reports have never actually been made.
Right. I mean, the board, thank you, that answers that question. And what I guess I'm, it's, I think functionally speaking, in my experience, we do receive updates in an appropriate way. There have been times when that has especially during transitions where we just need to smooth over what types of and what is the nature of updates, for instance. And it's just unclear to me. That feels like a very hard thing to lock into a policy, but it does also feel very important to establish. And so it makes sense that we're repealing this. What I am not walking away completely sure of is if we should have explored the idea of codifying that or in policy or not.
I
Going
think this
forward,
is,
not today.
yeah, my suggestion is as part of establishing your objective, performance standards and everything for Dr. Scriven, there just should be some expectation as to what the board expects to be told about.
Mm-hmm.
It's different in every district, to be completely honest with you. General rules of thumb are, you want to make sure, obviously superintendent wants to report to the board anything that's going to potential to be newsworthy or anything that could have the impact, anything where what you don't want is the board finding out about something serious through or sources other than the superintendent. So that's kind of, I'll defer to Dr. Scriven on what, on this, but that's generally the rule of thumb.
I think this is definitely an item, Dan, Jolie, Jenny, all of you guys on here, that when we have our next board retreat, which I believe should be hopefully on the docket soon, we definitely need to hash this out. I just know common sense, and Ms. Rose, I'm gonna just rely on my common sense at this point. I'm gonna over communicate to you guys right now. So something of this level is an item you would never have to worry about not knowing about. So
Makes complete sense. Thank you. And I guess all I would throw out is the idea of having potential consideration for a policy that requires the establishment of Dr. Scriven, what I think you requested. But I think it's a wise request to have a written agreement or a written protocol of what communication, which is kind of developed mutually between board leadership and the superintendent. That feels like a good practice. So we might want to consider codifying that practice rather than having it be on a per relationship basis if we're looking 10, 15, 20, 30 years in the future. Yeah, wow, 1997. Okay, so that would
Dan,
move
could I
forward.
just-
Yes,
could I'm sorry, Dan.
yes.
Would that be more appropriate maybe in a board superintendent kind of communication protocol, similar to kind of the protocol that we currently have in place for communications in general, versus putting it into a codified policy?
I
And
have
kind of defer to
that.
Mrs.
I have no strong opinion on that. Yeah, I think where it's codified makes sense that it wouldn't be a policy. I could see it making sense that it is a policy if that were the guidance of Mr. Roos, but also I'm comfortable either way. So
No, and that would be, I think
Okay.
Ms. Haywood's suggestion is, and Dr. Scriven's suggestions are both better than having it in a policy. I think it's much
makes
better
sense.
to have it in an individualized, frequently reviewed protocol between the superintendent and the board.
Right.
If you, burying in a policy that nobody ever looks at doesn't facilitate any communication.
Right. Oh, and to be clear, I wasn't proposing that the protocol be in the policy, but rather that there be a
Right.
policy outlining the development of that protocol as something that we do. So it's not lost
Oh, I see
on
what you're saying.
transition of superintendent or board leadership, but rather when that occurs, we make sure we reevaluate our protocol. And that is the part that would be potentially in a policy.
Okay.
But we can follow up with this. Is I just wanted to mention it since it was this item and we hadn't been asking questions. So no, I'm just kidding. That makes sense. I think we can move on to the next item, and there's no action related to this conversation. I'm glad we had the discussion, and maybe we'll follow up later. I see no public comment on policy 815, so that would move forward for first read repeal. The next item on the agenda is AR 335, family and medical leaves. And to clarify, this is revisions to the AR only, so this would not be a board action, just a modification to the administrative regulation.
The changes here are, there's nothing major, but they are updated. There's no reason to entitle all full-time instructional employees to deeming the minimum hour requirement. If somebody's, they still would have to have been employed, for a year before that to occur. I mean, a full-time employee who's there for a year, doesn't go out on leave, isn't sick, or, for extended periods of time, is generally going to meet it, but they won't always. So there's no need to have that in there. And this, we also struck this part about employees' use does not extend their period, because that actually is not correct. That's actually not the district's practice.
Great, thank
I
you.
don't know if I missed anything, Adrian.
No, those were the only two items.
All right. Any board comments? And I see no hands from the public, so that would move on to Do we go through the similar, we don't even do first read, since there's no board action, this would just go into place.
This is just, this is the.
Just
it'll
for
be posted-
information.
Yes, the,
Great, thank you.
this is the go ahead to post it with these revisions.
Makes sense. Thank you very much. The next item is policies 324, 424, 524 personnel files, which are being consolidated into a new 324.
Correct.
Without any changes, correct?
That since it is with no changes, is the reason for this being on the agenda, and that there are a couple like this, is it just for discussion, or is it truly to remove the legal references?
It's just to consolidate. It actually,
Of course, right.
yeah, it's actually a non-substantive change. So this doesn't even go
Okay,
to the board for reading. It can just, the renumbering can just occur because the policy, I think it's 003, allows you to make non-substantive changes such as
Mhm.
renumbering without going to, the process of first and second. So this can just go into effect.
okay.
Yeah.
Any board comment?
So I'm sorry, so we would just remove this off of the agenda for the December meeting. There's no board action required.
Yes, that is correct.
Right.
Great.
Okay.
Ken, I do have one question. Since we will be repealing 424 and 524, does that all need to remain?
No, the repeal of 424 and 524 should go on the agenda because there is some language there that's not identical to what's in 324, so they should go on there for repeal.
Okay.
Yeah, let me just.
Mr. Roos, in terms of the non-identical language, I didn't catch
I
that.
take that back. Maybe, I could be mistaken. The language actually could be identical. Let me just
Okay,
confirm that. If in fact it is identical, then no, you don't need to put those on the agenda. No, it's identical language.
Mhm.
So no, we don't even need to go for first read on appeal. Just renumber.
all right. So does the policy moving, any board comment on that? And if not, this would move forward. Would we provide it as an informational update or not
Yes.
even? Okay,
No, whenever you make a non-substantive change, it needs to be included in the policy committee report,
great.
but not in any board action, but it should be noted in the minutes of the.
Sure. And during the update, it will be
Exactly correct.
all right, thank you. So that will move forward. And the next is policies and AR 335, 445, 555, which is being consolidated and renamed to dress and appearance. It was previously professional dress and grooming.
Yeah, I want to say it's an overhaul. It doesn't change anything I think you do, but it's just a updating and a rewriting and making sure that the language is more sensitive with respect to just addressing grooming generally.
Right.
Dress and appearance.
Any board comment? All right. I had a question around the administrative regulation. Simply, and I apologize for not finding and taking the time to find the policy, but the political advocacy section of the administrative regulation, it triggered memories of, don't we have a separate policy related to political expression already? And are we duplicating language instead of does this section make sense here if it already exists in a political, an expression and communication policy for employees already?
It makes sense in the regulation.
Okay.
Because you want to make sure that people, trying to find where that policy is. I thought it was maybe under, It makes sense to have it in the regulation just so people
Okay.
know, maybe there should be a cross-reference. And I will locate the other policy regarding political expression. Not finding it now, but
Freedom of expression is 320 and political activities is
Oh, here it is.
321.
yeah, this doesn't really talk about. This talks about you can't campaign on district property.
Mhm.
I don't know why there isn't a regulation to go, I'm not sure why there's not a regulation. I will double check that. There should be a regulation, 321.
Okay.
Maybe it's elsewhere, but but we need an AR for 321. And we need cross-reference with the dress and appearance policy. So
Thank you.
those are all good things.
Okay. It makes sense. And
So we should move forward for first reading with my suggestion is you move forward with first reading on the dress and appearance policy, and then we will have the regulation for 321 available when we have, so that they can all be brought along, in sync, in sync.
right. That makes sense. All right. Any board comments beyond what has just been raised? And if not, we would move forward to first read as described. Sounds like that's what we'll do. So the next item on the agenda is policies in AR 352, 452, and 552, which is a consolidation into addressing disruptive behavior.
Yeah, again, no change, no real changes here, just a consolidation. And I think 452 and 552 have this exact same language.
So this would be another just a renumbering essentially, correct?
If there are no other changes, correct. That would just be a non-substantive.
Okay. Any board comments? All right, seeing none, that will move, well, I guess go into place. If indeed none non-substantive changes, then it would move into
Right,
place.
there don't appear to be any, they all appear to be the exact same policy. Just was printed 3 different places.
Right. And then similar policies 357, 457, 557 complaint procedure, which is a consolidation of complaints not covered by CBA, I should add.
Correct. This was looked at not too long ago. I'm going to say, no, 2016. Yeah. So again, very little in the way of substantive. There really aren't any substantive changes here.
Sure.
So you don't really even need to move forward with adoption as first or second reading here. It's unless you have other substantive changes. These point changes they're not substantive.
Right.
Hey, Dan, I think Mrs. Lohman had a question on one of the previous items.
Oh, I apologize for missing that. Yes, Ms. Lohman.
Thank you, Dr. Scriven. I just wanted the title of the 352, addressing disruptive behavior. Could we just add of students?
I believe it's actually of employees.
Yes.
No, it's not. It's of students. I actually
What?
think that is, I completely concur with Ms. Lemon's suggestion, because the first time I looked at it in preparation for this meeting, I thought it was employees too.
I did too. That's why I had to read it again.
Well, why is it in the employees section?
Because it's how employees interact with students when they are acting disruptively.
Yeah, it's directive to staff.
Wow, I need to revisit my reading comprehension skills, because I when I read it, I think because of the section, I was just mentally mapping it to employees.
It regulates employee
It does
behavior,
regulate, yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. Well,
and you can change the name again without having to
that
go through
without
readings.
okay. That's
But
not.
I think that makes complete sense.
Yep. I concur. Thank you, Ms. Lohman.
I'm gonna do it right now. Okay,
All right. So then so we were just about to talk through complaint procedure not covered by the collective bargaining agreement. Which is
correct.
another consolidation.
Again, with no substantive
No
changes,
substantive
and it can be
changes.
done without going through first reading.
There we go. All right. Any board comment on this item? And seeing none, I
No,
think,
just to
oh,
clarify,
yes, Ms. Hayward.
just to clarify, then we're talking about policies 324, policy 352, and policy 357 being basically withdrawn from the December agenda as a first read, because these are all just renumbering with no substantive changes, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
They're not being withdrawn. They're just not being put on there. They're not on.
Yeah.
But they will
Okay.
be included in the minutes.
Right.
Mhm. Yep. Thank you. Makes sense.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Since we have a minute, I guess Mr. Roos, the questions that I had asked you over email related to meeting videos, and the second item are related to basically kind of requiring PDFs of presentations rather than PowerPoints of presentations. What is the appropriate, those feel like they ought to be discussed, but would we want to have a brief conversation right now in 5 minutes, since we have a little bit of extra time, or can we do that without it being an agenda item that was from a sunshine perspective? And that's my only question.
The answer is you can, as long as because you're not taking official action.
Right.
You're just letting, you can go ahead and do that. That's fine.
This would be preemptive, just a brief preemptive conversation, and then it would be a future agenda item for us to actually review the policy. But Ms. Haywood already is familiar with it, because I just casually mentioned, but Ms. Lohman, basically, now that we are recording our committee meetings, we have a meetings policy, and the question I wanted to raise was, should we codify that practice and expectation so that going forward we continue it predictably, and this would mean that if and when we get back to being able to have in-person committee meetings, we would need to figure out ways to continue that, or to change the policy back.
Yeah, that all makes sense.
Okay. And also I guess Dr. Scriven, I'd be curious what your thoughts are on, does that prospect sound reasonable to you?
I think we need to even have the ability when live to record. Is that not current practice?
For the legislative meetings, it is. But for committee meetings, we had held them in this room 109 at the end of the hall, which did not have the ability to record.
All right, so let us on our end start to revisit that now. I'll have some dialogue with IT and Kevin Kaufman and see what we can do from a proactive measure, but it makes sense.
Okay. So then I'll just
And Dan,
yes, Ms. Haywood.
I'm sorry, Dan, sorry to interrupt you. Would this be something, as we're kind of dealing with substantive policies in the appropriate committee structure first? This may be one that could be discussed also in the communications committee with recommendations, and obviously we'd have to logistically figure out if technology, impacts and what would need to be put in place. Obviously at the administration building when we go back to in-person meetings.
Right. Mike, that makes sense. I guess the question is, if our policy was it would probably not prescribe that level of implementation so much as that our expectation is that the meeting that recordings occur and that they be made public. I don't know if I feel like that could be decided at a policy level.
That's true.
I personally, the reason I suggest that is, this has been a discussion for a fair amount of time, and we are at a point where that's what we're already doing. So I wouldn't, Ms. Haywood, what if I spoke with the communications committee chairs to see if they would want to discuss it before it turned into policy? I suspect actually they wouldn't feel the need to, as long as administration was comfortable with it, and then they would work it out.
Yeah, it's one of
Yeah,
the
yeah, I,
Oh,
communication committee
Ms. Lohman's here.
I can at least speak for myself, and I'm pretty fairly confident that Mr. Fishbein also would feel the same way, that we are both always in favor of, making our meetings and minutes and everything else as accessible to the public as possible. So I personally would support that.
okay, thank you. I just was thinking about the process, but I'm definitely not opposed at all to making our meetings more accessible and more transparent to the community.
I want to do a little more due diligence, and I just want to be clear with the board. For me, coming into a new system, I want to make sure I want to be clear with the precedent, and right now, I don't know how widespread this happens in other districts or not.
Sure.
I know where I came from. We did not record committee meetings or other meetings as such. Even our board meetings were live and streamed, but not necessarily recorded where the public could go back and actually see an old meeting. So
Okay.
Before I go down a rabbit hole and commit from our end, I think this would be a deeper conversation that would need to be held. So that's just my perspective.
Okay, then
It
I
seems
think
like there's energy generated that was generated prior to me even coming, and I need some of the historical context to really understand the why, the purpose, and all before I just say yay to something that I don't know if I'm fully committed to or not.
great. Mr. Ruse, I see your hand.
Yes, I think that I note that you don't have any policy on recording, and whether or not and to what extent you record meetings, there should be a policy that governs what happens when you record them and what you do with the recordings and the standards by which you would ever edit a rebroadcast if there was some reason you needed to do so. So I would propose that we work with our office, Ed Diazio, and I work with Dr. Scriven to come up with a policy. And it wouldn't even necessarily have to say what meetings are being televised, as it would for rebroadcast, as much as it would say, this is the protocol when they are. So if that's okay, that would be my suggestion, is that Ed and I work with Dr. Scriven on that.
And
That
Mr.
sounds
Ruth,
good.
is it possible? I'm sorry, Dr. Scriven.
No, go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, sorry, I just can't see everybody. So, Mr. Ruth, I think it would be also helpful for the policy committee if there are any other comparable policies in other school districts on this topic to share those with us so that we can kind of get the scope of, what other school districts are doing. Not to say that we will exactly mimic that, but it will give us at least a roadmap of what other districts are doing as well.
Yeah, we'll be happy to do that. I can, at the top of my head, I can refer you, Lower Merion has a pretty well-worn policy on this. So does Tredyffrin Easttown, so does Abington. They all have policies directly addressing recording of meetings. But I'll be happy to work, to make sure that those policies get supplied to you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, that was, thank you all for the ad hoc topic. I can't believe we actually could have probably ended at 8:30. Go team. Is there any other comment from anybody that you'd like? Otherwise, I think we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
Are you, yeah,
Oh,
you're good.
yep, Miss.
I saw something in the chat and then I realized it was.
Okay, sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
Sorry.
I move to adjourn.
All right, thank you, Ms. Haywood. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor, I
And Dan,
suppose.
thanks for chairing.
Oh, absolutely. Bye, all.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I just got, hang on, I just got a text from Dr. Scriven.
Okay.
Hi, Dr. Smith. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening,
Hi,
Dr. Smith.
Good evening. Dr. Scriven trying to get in?
Yeah,
Is he having any issues or?
he asked me if the link was still working. I
can
just
send
sent
it.
it. I got it. I'm right. I'm in there right now.
All right.
So we have a pretty cool outing tomorrow with the PBL kids. They're going over to the Elkins estate and they're going to work with the Farmer John woman.
Oh, that's awesome.
She's got 6 acres over there. She's doing like farm to table kind of stuff. And some of our kids are going to be helping with the design of all the facilities. They're
Oh,
going to make
that's so cool.
they're going to make like little models and stuff. It's a really great opportunity.
Fabulous PBL project.
And then
And,
after that, I have Friendsgiving over at the Skills for Life classroom where they're all cooking, and they went shopping last week. Like some really great stuff, really fertile material for stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, those are great.
Great.
That all sounds really fun stuff, actually. All right.
I
Well, should I
love
get?
excuse me, I love the Farmer John story. I just think that the Elkins estate got so much attention from us. And one of the things that was in the proposal by the owner was this idea of farm to table, but we didn't really pursue how that was going to come to be. And then Farmer John steps in and like it's just perfect because it's this local person who's going to give the, it's perfect. It's just a win-win-win every way around. So yeah, sorry. I go ahead, Jenny. Sorry about that.
I was just going to say, I know we're waiting for Dr. Scriven. Is it
Oh,
all
that's
right if
true.
I at least do roll call and just get it started, or you want to wait a few more minutes?
Has he texted you back, Kev?
Yeah, he's it's not working. He said I just sent him my link, so maybe he'll come in as me.
I wonder if he has.
Yep.
There he is.
Wait, are you
Hi,
here?
Dr. Scriven.
There we go.
Let me change it. I'll change his name.
I'm in on
Amy.
the phone. I don't know what's going on with the laptop.
I
Still
was
in
on
your
the-
office.
Wonder if Zoom's already open in the background. I bet.
All right. Well, I think we're ready to roll.
Ready to roll? Ready to get going? Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the November 18th meeting of the Communications Committee meeting. We will start by calling the roll.
Joel Fishbein here.
Jennifer Lohman here, and I think that's it for the board members. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the, I gotta call up the previous date of our,
October 28th.
thank you,
October
last
28th.
meeting, October 28th. Yeah, the approval of the October 28th minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Fishbein. Second, Jennifer Lohman. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The minutes of the October 28th meeting are approved. And I think that takes us to the substantive portion of tonight's agenda. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Mr. Kaufman.
Excellent. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 18th, 2021 meeting of the Communications Committee meeting. Nice to have Dr. Scriven in the house and Dr. Smith. Love to see that. We've got 3 items on our agenda for this evening. We're going to talk about the digital content specialist search. I'm going to give you a little update on news media relations, and then we're going to have our social media fall check-in. So, as you all know, I've been searching for a replacement for the digital content specialist. This is going on, I think, maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months. Since this has been vacant. As by way of update, we had 7 applicants. I had pared down the list to 2 that I was going to interview. Did conduct 1 interview, another interview, accepted another position to my chagrin. So I spoke with Dr. Scriven about it, and we're gonna take a little bit of a different tack this time. I'll still have it listed on the jobs portal, the Cheltenham jobs portal, but I'm going to try to make some inroads at like Penn State, Arcadia, Temple maybe, and see if we can't capitalize on some of those December grads coming into the marketplace. I was telling Chris before the meeting, this would be an absolute job that I would have wanted when I came out of college, because there's so many different things that the position does. So, and the salary is okay. Maybe it's skewed a little bit more towards entry level. So that's our tack for now, and hopefully we can get somebody on board. I'm going to say early to mid-January. I'm going to move this one a lot faster since I have the job description updated and have a plan of action moving forward. So I'll probably give an update on that in December. All right, so our media relations segment of the presentation, just by way of reminder, I presented this maybe last year, middle of the year, and a little bit more of an in-depth presentation about media relations. But the meat of the matter here is there's basically two kinds of media that I'm trying to earn as director of communications. One is earned media, and that's where I actually put effort out and pitch a story or contact a reporter to see if they're interested in what we have going on. So it can be maybe as part of a trend story or something along those lines. The other is a media mention. Those are the nice stories I get Google alerts about. Like we got one for I believe his name is Jack Clark, a former basketball player who went through some injuries and is now at LaSalle, and he's 100% ready to go. And they mentioned that he's a Cheltenham graduate. So that's a media mention. All right, here's some of the media mentions that we've been able to collect since July. These not by no means is this an exhaustive list, but I didn't want to overwhelm the page. You can see we're doing pretty well. A lot of it still centers on the CDC stuff, or not the CDC, the COVID stuff. We had a pretty cool, not cool, maybe the wrong word, but the day we had Ida come through and close schools, there was a big hullabaloo with the school district of Philadelphia. So I was able to tap into that and have Nancy Hacker on the phone with a reporter, just kind of giving our side of the story, what we were doing. This other one here, the Penn State expanded its branch campuses decades ago. This had a quote and some verbiage in there from Lori Cohen, who was able to speak about the the branch campuses of Penn State. She's an alumna, so it was kind of close to home for her. But they did a story, and this actually hit the wire. And I found this link on, I think it was US News and World Report.com, which is great exposure. But basically, it laid out some of the issues that Penn State was having with its branch campuses and keeping those viable. There's the Jack Clark story that I mentioned. There was also a story that ran on, I believe, was the National High School Federation website about the Philadelphia Eagles donating helmets to our football team. So it's really kind of all over the place. Some of them I'm involved in tangentially, others they just pop up, and it's a happy circumstance. So some of the earned media from the past 3 or 4 months, obviously, Dr. Scriven is now on board. We were able to place a story in the Inquirer that included 2 other superintendents who are starting in the area. The other one of the other ones was the Lower Merion superintendent. I can't remember the third one. This other story here, Scriven to serve as Cheltenham School District Superintendent, that was in the Reporter, and that's a good source for us. We've got a pretty good in with that newspaper. I'm on, I would say, texting relations with the reporter there, so she was happy to give us some ink. And then the other story of note was Troy Gore getting his start as the football coach at Cheltenham. The one that mentions African-American head coach in the headline, that was in the Philadelphia Tribune. So that was a really specific pitch that I made. I called Donald Hunt, who I've known for years, used to cover Temple basketball when I was a grad assistant down there. He used to be with the Inquirer, the Daily News. I can't remember, but he's now at the Tribune. So I was able to, rekindle that. And we got a nice story out of it. It's really great. And then this other one, the bus story, was kind of an interesting circumstance, because I knew we were having some issues, generally as we do with our with busing toward the beginning of the year. The schedules take a little while to get hammered out, and this year, adding to the mix was the fact that there was the driver shortage. So I wanted to try to get word out into the community in a more organic way than just making a post that, yes, our bus drivers we're short on bus drivers, and we're working our way through some busing issues. So I texted with Maddie Hanna at the Inquirer, and luckily enough, she was doing a story about the bus shortage. So I was able to get Derek Platt, our new transportation supervisor, on the phone. So that was part of what I like to call a trend story, because there were a number of other school districts that were included in that story, but I happened to reach out at the right time and have the reporter speak with one of our staff so we could tell our story. And there's another one of those on this next page, where I needed to get something out into the community, and I couldn't necessarily do it just with a straight Facebook post. But these were all television hits here. And the officials issue warnings as dangerous social media challenges emerge. This is the story about the devious licks. Not Snapchat, the TikTok challenges that were going around, where people were destroying bathrooms and defiling other places in school. There was a slap a teacher challenge, like all sorts of silliness. And I was thinking the best way to combat this would be to get our side of the story out, which I've been trying to do since I got here. That was my main pitch when I came in to interview, was we have to fill the vacuum first. We have to tell our side of the story. So I was able to get Rennie Lahara on Fox 29. It was a live shot from the high school.
It's School Violence Awareness Week, and in Montgomery County, students came together today to.
I don't know why that went off, but I'm not going to show you the whole thing about Rennie, but I'm just going to kind of give you a look at it. Where is the?
Licks Challenge or the Bathroom Challenge. And if you haven't heard about it, it includes everything from filling up soap dispensers with urine to vandalizing school property. We covered this when it was happening just a few weeks ago in Berks County. Things are going to keep happening. So what do we do about it? What are schools doing about it? This morning, I'm joined by officials from 2 schools in our area where this is happening. We have Dr. Dan McGarry, who is the superintendent of schools in Upper Darby. Thank you for joining us. While Dr. Renato Lahara is the principal of Cheltenham High School, who's also joining us. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So first, I want to start off with you, Principal Lahara, because I want to ask you, are you seeing some of these instances, and what types of instances are you seeing?
Well, we have a few variations of it. We have seen the bathroom soap dispensers, and we've also had some fire alarms pulled. And most recently, one of our students wrote a threat in a bathroom stall that they were going to shoot up the school. All, to rise the anxiety of our students, of our staff, and of our community. So those are some of the things that we've been seeing in our school.
So certainly part of the trends that we were just mentioning. And Dr.
So I don't want to take up the whole meeting showing you these clips, but that was all part of getting our story out there, was telling folks what we are up to and how we're dealing with this, and also to emphasize the fact that this isn't just happening in Cheltenham, that these this sort of acting out was happening elsewhere, because we can tend to be a little in our bubble here in the township, and I needed people to understand that this wasn't just happening in our school. And then there was a fun clip here, Channel 6.
It's School Violence Awareness Week, and in Montgomery County, students came together today to take a stand against bullying. The kids at Glenside Elementary School gathered right outside and formed the shape of a heart. Chopper 6 captured that sweet scene from high above. The school has events each day this week planned to get the students talking about the importance of being kind to one another.
Yeah, so that was, they do that every year. They used to do peace signs. Now they're doing hearts. So that's always an interesting visual. Channel 6 sends the helicopter out. We have some connects at the news desk at Channel 6. So really all we have to do is just say, hey, we're going to have this really interesting visual. And a lot of times they'll come out and they'll shoot it. So that's our news media segment. Social media, still a big driver of what we do. Still trying to get as much into the ether as possible. I'm going to show you each of our platforms' most popular posts. No surprise, Dr. Scriven being named superintendent was a huge, huge success. You can see there, it is our best post by far. For a long time. We had 1,700 reactions. That's, thumbs up, hearts, whatever the emojis are. And then also that reached 29,000 people. So I was really, really pleased with that. And the shares alone, you see that right there, 376 shares. I'm pleased if we get 376 shares during a semester, and we had 376 shares off of one story. So that was really performed well. Our second one, our most popular post on Instagram actually was on a Saturday after a football game. This is linked.
The Cheltenham Panthers cheerleaders and the Panther, they have a lot to cheer about tonight. Cheltenham runs all over Norristown. Jordan Lilly, 54-yard touchdown. Cheltenham, 33-zip. It is their first dub. Bonner Prendy.
That was part of Saturday morning highlight show on, I believe it was channel 6. And so I took that clip and clipped it and posted it to our social media, because how often do we get an actual call out on for a football game? on a Saturday morning during a highlight show. So I thought that was kind of cool. That performed pretty well. 340 likes, reached about 1,800 people. Our best, you can see here, our best post on Instagram for this time period. And here it is again, no surprise. Dr. Scriven on Twitter performed really well. We had impressions times times a user is served a tweet in a timeline or search results. I thought that was important to put that in there just so we all understand the terminology. But almost 3,800 impressions, which is great. Total engagements, really just performed so well, and exactly as I not anticipated, but exactly as I had hoped, and rolled out. And I worked with the board, and I worked with Dr. Scriven on getting all of this information out, and talked through the plan. And I thought it worked out really well. So we can't have a communications committee social media check-in without talking about analytics. So here's this is from September 1st through yesterday. You can see our Facebook has reached almost 50,000 people, which is up by 2/3 over the previous time period. You can see the spikes there for the Facebook page coming right around September, looks like September 20th. That's in the neighborhood of when we announced Dr. Scriven's appointment. And you can see the same thing for the Instagram. That's up considerably as well. We've really been pushing a lot of the content onto Instagram. Been tagging kids and teachers and coaches, and I find that really helpful to get the word, to get the story moving, to actually get people to like it and share it, and then once it's shared or retweeted, then it just kind of propagates from there. That's really the goal, is to have content out there that is really shareable. And then our Twitter, you can see I couldn't grab statistics for September through November, so you can see here Twitter has evolved into more of a sports related outlet. I do football on there. Basketball will be pretty big in there as well. There's a huge community of high school athletics that I've been able to tap into, and I've been sharing some other stuff there as well. Not all of these tweets, the 57, the 73, the 44, not all of them are athletic related. Sometimes if the copy explaining a story is within the character limit, I'll put it into Twitter as well. I've been using Hootsuite, which is a social media platform or social media distribution platform. So I'm able to format text and add tags and include links for each of these three platforms, and hit go, and it does its magic. It's a wonderful, wonderful tool. I can't believe I didn't tap into it prior. It was mostly Dana Walker's realm, but it beats having to sign in and sign out of different accounts and all of that sort of thing. So Hootsuite has really been great for me for this year, and hopefully the new person, when they do come in, they will pick it up as well. And my favorite page, because I don't want us to be in a bubble. This is some of our competition. You may recognize some of these schools. Reading is up there, as is Shaker Heights. I know Shaker Heights is really kind of like we are, but in Ohio. So I wanted to try to get us with like schools geographically, as well as student population and the brand, if you will. So you can see we're still posting a lot. Our likes are pretty steady. We're about 4,500 on our page. Again, that is I have not paid for a single follower. That is all organic. And whenever I post something on the alumni page, I will go through, and if somebody likes something and they don't follow our page, I'll invite them to like it. So you can tell it ebbs and it flows. When I do that, we do end up getting a lot of followers out of that. But Reading is the beast. You know, they didn't have any posts during this. This is just for the most recent week. They didn't have any posts, and they still had 2,000 engagements. So that's the goal right there, is to, well, obviously I'm not going to not post things. But I mean, that's amazing to me. And the fact that they have so many followers makes that possible. North Penn, again, another beast, huge school, 11,000 followers. Abington, a little bit more within our realm. But nobody is, well, Norristown is posting as much as we are. They have maybe about 1,000 more followers, which that equates to the difference in our engagements. And the Lower Marion spike there, the 9,000 engagements, that has to do with Sean Hughes, who passed away in a car accident this past weekend, the principal at Lower Marion High School. And because I was like, whoa, that's really an outlier. Where did that come from? So I did just kind of a dive into what Lower Marion had been putting out the previous week. And that's where all their engagements came. Because you can see they didn't have all that many posts. So that is my presentation. Are there any questions or comments?
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Any questions, comments, Mr. Fishbein, Dr. Scriven, Dr. Smith?
Yeah, I have a question / comment. I'm actually pleasantly surprised that you have 22 posts when you don't have your digital content specialist. I didn't think we'd have as much just because that seat was empty. And how'd you do that?
Well, I'm taking from other areas, you know, like I'm not as involved now, maybe with the foundation. You know, Dr. Scriven and I are still trying to figure out, you know, what exactly my role is going to be. And, you know, we've been having, you know, several back and forths about that. And we're just, you know, trying to feel it out and figure out where exactly I'm needed. So Dr. Scriven is not, and this is by no means a criticism. Dr. Scriven is getting his feet wet, and I'm not being utilized as much as I was under Marseille. We're not doing COVID letters that go to the full district and are signed by Marseille. So there's a number of things. I'm just kind of shifting things around.
He's throwing me under the bus, Joel. But
no, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Well, it may have. He may be saying that we were over communicating before, which may or may not be true. I mean, that's another way you could have taken it that wouldn't have been through.
Full transparency is right now with the onboarding and all the meetings. I'm in here a lot more than what I will be once I'm done with this 90-day entry plan. And we're strategically going to have to seize opportunities to continue to push out in the schools and take advantage of when that presents itself. I think we'll both be at something with PBL and Dr. Riley tomorrow, for instance, and there'll be some other opportunities. So it's trying to strike the balance, but these meetings right now are the priority, which is pulling me away from doing what I really enjoy doing. But this is part of the work. So
yeah. And obviously there needs to be a conversation about what is strategic about communicating, and you know, you guys will I'm sure have that conversation. So.
We will get there. I have every confidence, and please don't take that as a criticism, Doc.
Oh, believe me, I know the reality. So
okay, good.
It's all good.
Good.
I didn't hear it that way, for whatever that's worth.
Well, thank you, Mr. Fishbein.
I see we have two members of the community. They will be members of the community for a short while longer. And I was wondering if they had any questions. If you do, you can raise your hand. We can unmute you. Nope. Okay. Any other comments, thoughts, questions for the good of the order? Thank you, Kevin, for this. This is always interesting, and now that I'm kind of heading the ship of a tiny nonprofit, and we're trying to figure out how to maximize our social media presence, Hootsuite is a godsend.
Yes.
And we didn't know about. I didn't know about that until we had a recent college grad come on board as an AmeriCorps Vista fellow, and she was like, "Hey, look at all this stuff we can do on social media." I was like, "Do you want a job as a digital content specialist in a local school district?"
Well, do you have any of those resumes kind of laying around your office? That would be great.
But yeah, I mean, Hootsuite is it's amazing, and you can schedule, when you want to have it posted, and the whole 9 yards. So it really is amazing. And I think that you did such a great job pushing out, the stories that we have to tell. And I am a follower of certainly of the district on social media. So I always look forward to seeing what's happening. So thank you.
And I will say also that I really appreciated your media relations report. It's very, that's been my mantra since, this thing started, this communications committee, and we're not seeing bad stories. And when we get them, we're managing them in a way that we didn't before. So that's to your credit. And, if we can make that, that the strategy around that is something we can continue to talk about, and it's welcome. So
Thank you. So next month, I plan on a presentation about the Alumni Association, just FYI.
we're going to have a guest presenter.
I'll still present, but we are going to have a guest panelist, shall we say,
Okay.
who may or may not be able to answer questions that I don't know.
Fair enough. Anything else for any? Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not running this meeting. Sorry.
Anybody have anything else for the good of the order? Because if not,
I just wanted to say great presentation, Mr. Kaufman.
Thank you, Doc.
So if not, I will ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much,
Good night.
everyone.
Stay
Have a
safe,
good
everybody.
evening.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye.
Have
Thank
good
you.
night.
have a nice weekend.
You
Yep.
too.